Hello and welcome to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 2, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Cade Krakis, and as usual, I'm joined by Doug Geiser, the head coach of the Ashland University football team. Coach, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Of course. So the team started off the 2024 season with a loss to IUP in Week 1, 19-10. First and foremost, what are some of your general takeaways from the game?
I would say this, against good football teams, you cannot have self-inflicted wounds, and especially where those mistakes lead to points. For example, our special teams, we pride ourselves on winning the game on special teams, and we actually gave up points this week right at the beginning of the game and took a little wind out of our sails. So we got to rally back a little bit, but obviously we came up a little short.
And Coach, before we dive into the play on the field, when it comes to the locker room after the game, what was the general consensus in there, and who really stood out as a leader to keep the heads high?
I would say, we have 15 accountability team captains, and you could see them work in the room and telling guys to keep their heads up, and, it's only one of 11 at this point. So I would say all 15 of those captains did a tremendous job of, preaching the message to the team to stick together, and turn the page once we look at it the next day.
And as usual, it looked like the defense remained stout as usual. They only gave up 19 points, given they were in some really tough field position opportunities. Did you notice if there was anything specific that led to their success?
And I would actually say they really only gave up 12. I know the 19 was against them, but on the short field with the high snap on the punt, it was very much a sudden change situation. So I thought they played well enough for us to win the game. The thing that I noticed about them is our speed on defense. Guys didn't stay blocked, rally into the ball. That's always usually a pretty good recipe for any game.
And as usual, it's now time for us to dive into some of the standouts from the week. Who offensively stood out?
I thought our quarterback played pretty well. Trevor Bazinski was night and day from the IUP game last year. I think last year we struggled to throw for 100 yards. We were right around 50% completion. He was 66% completion this year, about 280 yards. Had one touchdown pass. Should have had a second one that we dropped in the end zone. But I thought he was stellar, and he led our team, and especially with some of the youth at some of the positions we were playing with, he did a nice job of standing out on offense.
And Coach, last week we talked about the loss of someone like Jackson Myers, a big senior. Defensively this week, who led the charge and who really stood out to take that void?
I would think, two people kind of come to mind. Bobby Young, who's going to be on the show later today, did a tremendous job in run support, had a key interception for us. And I thought Jack Talkington really stepped forward, had a tremendous game. Tremendous game, especially against the run, and things to build on, definitely for sure.
And something we also have to take note of is kicker A.J. Rhodes had a 38-yard field goal. How important was it to be able to test his leg here in Week 1?
It was key. It was key. I challenged A.J. in the offseason about consistency, and he not only had the PAT and the field goal, he also did a great job on kickoffs. I believe he had 2 that were out of the end zone, and 1 that allowed us to get a tackle on the 21. So he was stellar in his role, and we need more of that from him going forward.
And when you look at this next week, coming up against Ferris State, a really solid team, what changes need to be made for you guys to find success?
For us, it's about the Eagles. Obviously, we're going to know what scheme we're going to see offensively, defensively on the special teams, but we need to correct the mistakes we had going in this first week, and that's whether it's coaching staff, whether that's players, combination of the two. So, so far at this point in our preparation, it's been a lot of focus on the Eagles.
And Coach, it was great to be able to sit down with you here and talk a bit about Ferris State, but we'll dive more in depth onto them later. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's now time for us to take a quick break and join you back here shortly. Stay tuned. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. Now I'm currently joined by the offensive line coach, run game coordinator, and associate head coach, Jim Cordell. Coach, thanks for taking the time to sit down with me here today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So to hop straight into things, Week 1 saw a loss to the Crimson Hawks 19-10. What do you think could have been done differently to find a win?
We got to find ways to make plays in either the throw game or the run game, and we just didn't execute at times. and we got to be better.
And obviously there's some big changes in the running back room this past year, as some graduates and looking at some younger faces. What do you think could have been done differently from the coordinator side of things, but also taking a look at that offensive line to really find success?
Yeah, we do have a young group, and it's hard when we're out there. Okay, we get a couple yards at a time. You want to get 4 yards. You want to have efficient runs, and we were just short. 2 yards, 3 yards. And and then obviously we have an issue with special teams, puts the defense in a bad spot. We're behind. You got a young team. You're a little bit like, okay, how do we find a way where if we can avoid something like that, we can feel like, okay, let's I know 2 yards, 3 yards, but maybe the next one will break. And just if we can put ourselves in position to have some patience and those young backs, I mean they'll break them. They will. Now IUP was going to challenge us. They were gonna make it hard to run the ball as far as numbers, but those young guys have done a good job in camp. We just didn't give them an opportunity to show it in the game.
And you hold a number of roles with the team, meaning that you have to see a variety of different groups. Are there any that stood out positively to you?
Yeah, obviously, as Coach said, the quarterback is really good. And getting ready for Ferris, watching his performance last year again against those guys. I mean, he does a phenomenal job. And the tight ends and fullbacks did a good job for us as well when they got an opportunity to block. So, those guys did a good job. And obviously there's 3 other groups. You need all 5 as far as an offense goes to do well against a really good defense.
And Coach, a big headline that kind of fell underneath the radar was true freshman Nico Tracek starting on that offensive line for you guys, and a couple other guys were on the 2 deep as well that were true freshmen. What has led to them getting their instant start in the first year?
Those there's a couple guys that are on the 2 deep as freshmen, in a couple spots, and they came in, they're here in the summer, and I think it's just a big part of what we do at Ashland is we have a really good summer program and try to get guys ready for the fall. You never know, you can't really do a ton of football stuff in the summer, so when you put pads on and you go and play against a really good defense, but yeah, obviously Nico did a heck of a job stepping up in camp. And just didn't flinch, never flinches. It's something we talk about and preach in the O-line room. He did that tremendously well in camp. He earned himself the opportunity to go out there for the first game.
And when you take a look at another true freshman, wideout Isaiah Ramsey, he was given an opportunity to catch some balls late in the game. How do you think he performed in his debut?
Yeah, I don't think he was nervous to go out there and perform. He was here in the summer. Obviously a very good athlete, highly recruited player for us, and did a good job when he got the opportunity to go in. So I think as he continues and all those young guys continue, that they're going to obviously end up being really good players for us.
My last question for you here, Coach. You guys have got a couple tough opponents coming down the road the next few weeks. How important is it to start to string together some wins here?
Yeah, we have to string together execution first. That's the most important thing is, and I thought the team responded well last night when we practiced. We tried to make it hard on them, and they came back and practiced with a lot of energy. And we got to get better at the fundamentals. I think it is a good thing, when we get into the conference that, hey, we're battle tested. It's painful to lose. It sucks. It's hard. You put a lot of effort into those games, and when you don't get the result you want, it's hard. But they bounce back, and we'll certainly be battle tested and ready for a conference play.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit down with me.
Thank you.
When we return back from this next commercial break, we'll be joined by standout safety Bobby Young and Coach Geiser yet again. Stay tuned right here for the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. Now I'm currently joined by Eagles safety Bobby Young and Coach Geiser. Both you guys, thanks so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Bobby, first and foremost, we take a look at this past week. You got your first interception of the season in the first game in the first half. How did you get yourself in that position to make the play?
I have to credit to my pregame preparation. I take a lot of time to watch film, so I'm best prepared for the game. In my own free time and as a DB room, we spend a lot of time watching film. And through our film study, we kind of saw the quarterback was one-dimensional. His progressions kind of looks one way, picks one receiver. Saw him looking to the right, was able to jump the route and make a play on the ball.
And when you take a look at kind of the player preparation for that game, obviously it ended in a loss, but what were you guys doing to try to give yourself the best shot to win it?
I would say as a defense, after seeing them 2 years ago in the playoffs and in week 1 last year, we had a real good grip on what they wanted to do. I think we did a good job in limiting big plays. That's kind of what hurt us last year, but unfortunately wasn't able to get the job done, but I think we saw a lot of positive things that we can carry going into week 2.
As we take a look at kind of the locker room aspect of things, I was able to talk with Coach Geiser earlier, but from a player's perspective, what did you kind of see from the locker room? Who really stood out to keep the heads high, keep that morale straight?
I'd agree with what Coach Geiser said. All 15 accountability captains, I think they all did a great job of stepping up and leading us. And one thing that I've been focused on and preaching is that our goal is to win the league. And, unfortunately we weren't able to win this game, but it didn't matter if we beat IUP by 100 or lost the game. It didn't affect what our main goal is, and that's to win the league. And that goal is still attainable, so that's something that we can keep to keep us level-headed and keep aiming for it.
And for you being on the defense last season, you got to see what it was like to play alongside Jackson Myers, who was a big senior leader for you guys. Losing him, what have the seniors done this season to step up to fill that void?
I would say just doing their best to kind of keep the new linebackers. The new linebackers stepping up, Ben Holzhoffel and Jack. They're both sophomores, and they've done a great job, but really instilling confidence in them. We need them to step up and make tackles, and I think they've done a great job so far. And, we have senior leaders in the back end and the front end. And if we all just do our part, I think we can be a great defense.
And, Coach, I asked you that question last week as well. Coming off of this first week now, what did you see in that regard?
I thought what Bobby was talking about is definitely apropos. It's great to see the older guys, and having older guys on the back end also in the front has helped kind of ease those younger guys at linebacker into their jobs. It takes a little bit of pressure off of them, and it's kind of like a big brother looking out for you as well. It's a neat dynamic, and it's nice to see the guys do that.
And Bobby, back to you now. When you take a look at this relationship that you and Riley Weiss have started to formulate, the star duo back there at safety, how has the progression been from last year to this year in terms of the chemistry?
I think it's been great. It's only grown more. I think last year we both had a great year. He was an all-conference guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do this year. And I think we're just always on the same page. We take a lot of time to make sure we're on the same page, have the communication down. I think that allows us to both play fast and make tackles and make plays on the ball.
And lastly, we take a look at Ferris State this coming week. What challenges do they present for you guys?
They're a great team. I mean, historically, national champions. They do great in their league. But Coach Rose always reminds us, our defensive coordinator, that nobody beats Ferris State like the Ashland Eagles do in the past. So we're going to go up there and give them our best game.
Well, appreciate you both sitting down with me here today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we return back from this next commercial break, we'll be capping off the show with a look at the upcoming schedule and much more. Stay tuned right here for the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, right here on AUTV. Coach, it's time for our final segment of the show here today. So before we take a deep dive into the schedule coming up here soon, the team is gearing up to take on Ferris State. What does this high-stakes game mean to the program?
Playing teams like IUP and playing Ferris State are the reason kids come to school and play football here. You get a chance to play the best in the country. Perennially, they're a top 5 team, talking Ferris State. So it's a great challenge, a great opportunity for us to right the ship and hopefully get a big W.
And for the fans out there, Coach, last time we talked about some standouts for IUP and Ashland. What are some standouts for now Ferris State versus Ashland?
Ferris State, it always starts with the quarterback position for them. And Coach Anise does a great job. He plays 2 and sometimes 3 guys at quarterback. So all have unique skill sets, from Carson Gulker to Trinidad Chambliss. They do a great job, kind of a 1-2 punch. So in order to stop their offense, you have to stop the quarterback, number one. Defensively, they play a very, very exciting scheme. They are big, they're athletic, They're led by their All-American linebacker, Connor Neer. So a guy to kind of look at there. They'll probably be the prettiest team we play all year. They'll look like a MAC level team, if not a little bit more, and we're looking forward to the challenge.
All right, Coach, now we'll take a look at the schedule coming up here soon as we take a look at some teams coming down the line. When looking at the start of the season, there are obviously some tough teams in the mix, but a big one is for the traveling trophy in just a couple weeks. Talk us through what your thought process is here coming soon.
The Hillsdale game is our second longest rivalry. It is for the traveling trophy, and it's originally the rivalry started by the two most like schools in the conference. That's spanned through 3 conferences now. So every year we look forward to that game on the schedule, and I know they'll be loaded for bear. We're playing them up there, and Coach Shrefford will have their team ready to go.
All right, Coach, my last question for you here is what does the schedule look like for the road game coming up all the way in Big Rapids, Michigan?
We will play up there on Saturday night at 6 p.m. We will take off because the trip is more than 3 hours. We will take off on Friday right before noon, head up there, get a little walk through at the stadium, and get a chance to be in a hotel for the night. So we're up there for that night. And then the next morning we'll get up and have a pregame meal, do our meetings, and then head up to Big Rapids after that. 'Cause we're actually staying in Grand Rapids this year. And so head up there, make sure we're there 4 hours beforehand, and go through our normal protocol at that point. Pregame meal, chapel, and so on and so forth.
Well, Coach, thanks as always, and thanks again for making this show possible each week.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
That was today's episode of The Doug Geiser Show. As a reminder, be sure to tune into 88.9 WRDL to hear more from Coach Geiser on the Early Bird's Word on Tuesday mornings at 7:30 a.m. for exclusive coverage of AU football. I'm Cade Krakis saying thank you so much for tuning in to The Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV.